Hey, what's up guys, and welcome to FearFlix. Today I wanted to talk about one of my all-time favorite classic Universal monster films, the 1943 movie Frankenstein meets the Wolfman. This is a movie that I grew up with. It was one of the first Universal monster films that I ever saw, and it was one of the movies that really started to get me into not only the horror genre, but into the Universal monsters in general. Not to mention, this is also one of the first, I believe it is one, might even be the first versus film in the horror genre. The film stars Lon Chaney Jr. reprising his role as the iconic Lawrence Talbot, the Wolfman, that he made so famous, as well as Bela Lugosi finally playing the role of the Frankenstein monster. Ironically enough, a role that he was originally offered back when they made the original Frankenstein film, and for whatever reason, Bela Lugosi turned it down, and I guess he regretted it ever since. So he finally decided to play the role in this movie after he had already had a lot of success from Dracula. It was definitely weird for me as a little kid seeing Bela Lugosi, someone that I knew full well was the vampire. He was Dracula. It was weird seeing him playing the role of the Frankenstein monster, and I know that for me anyway, growing up, I always wondered, it always felt strange to me seeing him play that role. I always thought it was weird, like, why would they pick him? Why didn't they go for Boris Karloff? But I never knew at the time that there was this whole entire story arc of Frankenstein sequels, and all I ever knew growing up was that this movie had two of my all-time favorite monsters in it, from two of the best actors of that generation, portraying those monsters, and that made me love it. This is just one of those really fun movies that you can kind of turn your brain off a little bit, because during this time period, the studio was kind of grasping at straws story-wise. I mean, anybody who's seen a Universal monster film before knows that 99.999% of the time, at the end of those movies, the monster usually ends up dead. So with each sequel that they made, they usually had to try and find some bizarre way to bring back these monsters, to resurrect them from the dead. There's not really any sense getting into the plot of this movie, because it's really, kind of the same as a lot of the other Frankenstein films. It's about someone who is sort of a long descendant of the Frankenstein family who wants to sort of continue the legacy that Henry Frankenstein left behind. They usually end up finding themselves kind of corrupted by this idea of power, this idea of being in control of this monster that is, has the strength of 10 men and is just this absolute, beast that can't really be controlled or tamed. Seeing that clash with, this other beast in the Wolfman is just something that is just awesome as a horror movie fan. And yes, this is one of those times where, there's no tease. The Wolfman and the Frankenstein monster absolutely positively do fight, and it's pretty awesome in my opinion. I feel like I say it every time, but this really is one of those movies where you can kind of just gather up a group of friends, turn off all the lights, get some popcorn, turn your brains off, and just enjoy a really entertaining monster flick. This is without a doubt an old school, fun, entertaining, classic Universal monster movie that anybody who has an appreciation for those actors in that generation and has an appreciation for the Universal horror films in general, if you haven't seen this movie and you appreciate that, you're probably going to enjoy this movie. So if you're not too familiar with the Universal monsters and their legacy, this is not a bad film to start off on, and then you can kind of spread out and go to your Frankensteins and your Draculas and your Wolfmans. But this is definitely not a bad film to start off on, kind of like I did. Frankenstein meets the Wolfman from 1943. It kicks ass. You should check it out. So if you've seen the movie, leave a comment. Let me know your thoughts on it. Let me know your memories on it. Were your memories the same as mine? Were you aware of all of these other sequels and all these other franchises at the time when you first saw this movie, or was it the same as it was with me, being this kind of just random pairing of, the Frankenstein monster and the Wolfman? If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, subscribe for more episodes of FearFlix, and I will see you guys next time.